Okay. All right.
Ooh, I like the new angle on the tactical board.
Yeah, we're going the vertical.
Whoa, it's like Star Wars, at the beginning where it fades.
Ooh.
I like it. All right. So here's the thing. So as soon as you play with three in the back, Mikey Dobbs, right? Now, three in the back, five in the back. It's a three in the back with two wingers, right? It's five in the back defensively and three in the back when we go forward, right? This is a classic, thing to do. But so as soon as you play with three in the back, right, it makes you make choices, right? And I'm going to show you the kind of choices that we have, right? So the first thing is the only reason to play three in the back, really, is if you are going to use those three aggressively to win the ball. Because most teams are playing like one up top in the middle. Maybe they're playing, three across the front, but most teams are playing one across one in the middle. So you got like a 3v1 in the middle,
Yeah.
right? And this is going to become a problem for us all the time because if teams play three in the front, right, then what could happen is you could have 3v3, right? It could be, in this case, we're showing Abram, Parata, and Hernandez because Robinson hasn't been available, but obviously Robinson plays one of these roles when he comes back from Gold Cup, and we'll switch that out in a second. I'll go into that. But the bottom line is that, if you're going to play three in the back, you've got to be able to win the ball up the field. And one of the things that's happened already is that our three in the back, nobody knows who to match up with, right? Because, for example, if their forward comes up the line, right, if this guy is here, you would think that's got to be Abram, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's not what it's been. He has not left that position. He has been staying in here to protect the middle. And you know who was covering this position mostly in this last game?
I'm going to guess Sosa.
Nope.
Okay. Wiley.
Nope.
Oh, God.
Parata.
No.
I don't know.
Believe it or not.
Oh, look at him. See?
That's what that was responsible for that.
Okay.
They had
Amar
Sosa
Sedic.
staying in the middle, and they had Amar Sedic striking out wide. Does that recall something for you? How we used to do that?
Yeah.
And the problem with that, of course, is that, so you win the ball here, and right, and then who is there to play to? Right. But okay.
Almada. By the way, there's your answer.
Yeah. Well, so this is the biggest problem I have actually with the five in the back is Almada, right? Because so Almada actually, of course, he's been our best player, right? No doubt about that. He's been one of the best players in the MLS, right? Almada has looked really good in here in the middle part of the field, right?
Yeah.
He has looked a lot less effective when he's out here.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So the first thing that happens is you say, like, well, in a perfect world, we should be playing with some kind of formation of three midfielders, whether it's a double pivot with Almada in the front like that, right? Or whether it's even Sadic with only one as a defensive midfielder like that. But anyway, that's Almada's best role. And one of the things I have said over and over and over and over and over, when you're a coach, you start with your best player, right? You're like, okay, first let's maximize our best player.
Yeah.
So the one problem that we're going to have is the back five does not maximize Almada, because if you do this, right? So if Almada plays in here, right, then there is a possibility you could do it, right? You could actually play with two strikers. You could have Almada sort of playing right off the front of, hopefully this would be Gigi and not Barry, but whatever it is, you could be playing right off the front of him. But if that's the case, then you're not playing three in the middle anymore, unless it's completely unbalanced. What you're probably doing is one of these guys come in the middle like this, right? So you need another center midfielder, right? So what happens in that case is it's no longer Wolf, and the only other center midfielder would be Josetu now.
Mm-hmm.
Now, obviously, you might be thinking, wait a second, there is a good new center midfielder who plays sort of an attacking defensive role, right? The new French guy. And that may be the logic that they're thinking, that he can do that.
Yeah.
Right. But the problem with any combination like this, where Amada plays in the middle, then you're only playing two at strikers. And now you have Etienne, Chol, Wolf, Barry, and and Gigi for one spot. Right. So this is a big problem, right? Our team is clearly meant to play 3 up front. And so what's going to happen is, I mean, hopefully this is not Barry. We'll just give us the benefit of the doubt. But in Papa Giorgio, right? Let's move him out for a second, get back to it. So it's going to look some combination like this. And my first problem with the back in the 5 is that it's going to tend to push Almada out wide. And I don't think Almada is as good out wide as he is in the middle. What do you think? Because right now he's been playing this role as one of these guys because he's been playing here. We've only had 2 in the center back, right? And then we've had another forward like this, right? So that's the role he's been playing where he's really been thriving.
I think with Gigi in and him being even out left, he's good enough to be very effective there between his passing skills
well, clearly he's good enough, but is it his best spot on the field? No. And do you want your best player not playing in the best spot?
I agree. It's not designing around Almada.
Yeah. So that's a problem. Okay. So, but let's say, I mean, I think that's a given. If you're going to play, I think if you're going to play 5 in the back, then it has to become Almada like that. And this could be Wolf or Etienne, right, or whatever. There's some flexibility there. But okay, so if that's the case, the next problem that you have that we had, remember with De Boer, and we kept, I called it the De Boer cha-cha-cha, because like we would play 4 in the back and we would score goals but give up a ton. Then he would go to 5 in the back and we got shutouts all the time, but we couldn't score. Right. And it was just back and forth. He just kept adjusting. And I feel like we're headed there. Right. Because the problem with this formation is if you play 3 in the front, now you leave 2 on an island in the middle. Right. So if you have 2 on an island in the middle, what you need is a defensive midfielder who's spectacular. Right. And you need another midfielder who can both play the ball and who can defend. Now, it looks to me like that's what they bought. So that's the partner.
What was the starting lineup against Philadelphia? We played 5 in the back for the first time all season, right?
Correct.
Yep.
We looked the best we've looked all season.
Yes.
So what's working, though, in your mind with this change?
Well, certainly defensively it's working. We'll get to that in a second, right? We haven't given up a goal since we've gone.
We scored two fabulous goals, too.
Well, we scored 1 fabulous goal. That last
individual player move.
That last goal that we scored is, I think, we may have talked about Lennon gets open on the right. He puts it right through the goalkeeper's legs from an acute angle. If that's Andre Blake, there's no way that's a goal.
But it was still, it's still a clear-cut chance. It wasn't like
we created chances. Yeah. We did.
Chance.
We really did. We created chances. I'm not gonna, I'm not trying to be a Debbie Downer here. Yeah. We created chances, but that's what happened with De Boer. And then as the other teams adjusted to this and started overloading the midfield, we got less and less chances. We couldn't get up the field anymore. And that could happen.
We didn't have Almada and Gigi though.
Well,
as far as like true, I mean, I think
fair.
Because
we had already lost Almiron,
particularly if you're talking about playing them almost both as strikers, right? Like
we had Joseph Martinez at his prime, and he was scoring buckets of goals the first season under De Boer. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. I think.
But 2019, that's the spring that he got ACL'd, right?
No, the first season under De Boer, he was the leading scorer in the
2019.
whole league.
That's right. Yeah.
So anyway, you're going to have to play with 2 in the center of the park, right? And most teams are going to play some version of 3, right? They're going to be playing 3 in the center of the park. And so we're going to get overloaded in the middle. Now, obviously, Muyumba, right? He looks like an all-action guy. He looks like he's made to play that role, right? So, maybe, but that means that Sedic is going to be, on the bench. It means that Josetti is going to be on the bench, and that could be okay. If Muyumba can really link a pass, play an attacking midfielder, and also get a tackle in front of Sosa, it might be enough. This could work.
So who else are we going to bring? We have another designated player spot. We've got some like TAM openings as well. Like, so whether it's a full DP contract or a Moreno replacement, right? That's going to get paid good money. What do you think we're going to do to shore up the midfield here?
Yeah.
Or defense or left back or
Well,
whatever.
so there's a thing. So where is, so we are now, what I would say is absolutely committed to a back five, right? Because we can't, I don't think, in my opinion, I don't think Wiley can be a back in a back four like this. Now, obviously, this would be Miles, right? But I don't think this defensively is good enough, because I don't think Wiley and Lennon, we just go back to the same problem we were having.
Yeah, but we have like 3 other signings that are coming, right?
Yeah. Okay. But I think we're committed with what we're going on at the left back. We're committed to a 5, right? So presumably it's going to be this, and we'll get to this a second, but it's going to be a 5. So, okay, that's great. And the one thing I'll say about the 5, Wiley and Lennon are absolutely made for this 5.
Right.
Both of them can really go up and down the field. They can defend when they have help behind them in the middle, right? And they're very dangerous like this. They are made for a 5.
Well, that's the other thing I was saying is different. You not only have 2 of the top players in MLS that can score with Almada and Gigi, you got Wiley and Wolf who can score too and bring something to the table. Or Wolf and whatever mix of other options with Etienne and Chol based on minutes and
But here's the problem. So the rumor is that we're buying a designated player who is a winger of some kind, right? Now, if you play a winger in this, then what it means is that they have to be an attacking winger. So what would be this player here, right? So Wolf would be off, right? And it would be designated player here, right? Now, if we have a really amazing designated player, then that becomes an amazing front line, right? You give you that. But the problem is you're now completely reliant on Muyamba to be amazing. Otherwise, you have all 3 of these strikers and they never get the ball because you get dominated in midfield.
Well, what if you get another Moreno level? I mean, pay wise, right? At like $1 million a year salary. Somebody else in the midfield who's better than Huzetu, better than Muyamba, and better than Sadic.
Yeah, so we could be buying a amazing designated player who we've been talking about. We should buy.
No,
right?
I'm saying keep the designated player. Fine, but also now we can also sign somebody else in the midfield. Is my point. That's an upgrade.
So
yeah.
Now, if you can do that, then more power to you. Then it suddenly makes some sense.
Like Muyamba's the depth there.
Yeah, for sure. But the question is, do you think we're still going to buy an amazing designated player winger, and we still can get a great center midfielder?
We should be able to, yeah. And Carlos Boganegger kind of gave the nod to that. And even if it's not a true designated player, 2 high quality, like TAM level players.
That would be incredible, because I just don't think Muyamba, given the keys to the center midfield, is going to be the guy. I just don't. Right. I think that's a big risk for a guy who's never played a minute with us, doesn't really look like, tremendous, guy on the ball possession wise. He looks like his passing is very aggressive, right? Like he's an attacking midfielder who makes tackles. Fred gives away the ball a lot, right? Because he makes some spectacular passes up front too, right? But Ibarra is a little bit like that too. Ibarra gives up the ball a lot, and we haven't talked about him versus Sosa. But anyway, so the other problem I have, right, is regardless of all this, we're going to play 5 in the back. Clearly, we're committed to that, right? So God help us if we lose Wiley, because we got nothing there. But here's the other problem I have, right? So first, there's 2 problems I have. First of all, these 3, if they play all in the center, right, we go back to the problem that we had, and you could see it in the Philadelphia game. As the game wore on, who was wide open here? Bedoya. I mean, Bedoya is not exactly like the fastest, youngest guy anymore. He was killing us at the end of that game. He was wide open. They were finding him all the way out here. Parata, actually, it was Abram, but Abram was staying in here. Parata was in here. And we were asking, it was Sadic in that game, right? We were asking Sadic to try to get there. He never got there.
Yeah.
right? And so Bedoya had all day to service a couple of balls. And, I'll tell you, I go back to my notes in this game. There was, what minute was?
So anything left?
51st minute, right? Even with the center backs, they were slacking off, which enables Philly to find Bedoya completely wide open. He cuts in and just misses a goal at the far post. Would have been the same exact goal we've been conceding all year, even with the middle three. Didn't change anything. So that's the first problem. Here's the second problem, right? The second problem that we have is, all right, who are the players? So obviously Miles is one of them, right? Assuming that he's not gone, right? But Miles has to be one of the three, right? For sure, right? So one would think, right? So who are you going to pick? Are you going to pick Purata, Abram, or Hernandez? Two of those three. What do you think?
Well, Purata, I think, is first choice, right?
Okay,
then,
sure.
Then the question is it Abram or Hernandez?
Okay. Who do you think?
I think he goes with Abram. Am I guessing what he says or what I would do?
Yeah, what's your question?
Either way, give me what you would do.
I would do what you have out there right now.
Yep. Yeah. Same.
With Hernandez.
Me too. I think that Purata and Hernandez are both better than Abram. But here's the problem. So Purata's looked pretty good in this last two games. You know why he's looked good? Because he actually is not very aggressive getting up the field, but he actually is pretty good when he's the free middle guy. Right. So he's been the middle guy in these last things. Right. So the obvious thing would be keep him as the middle guy. Right. But if you keep him as the middle guy, where does Miles go?
Yeah.
You want to move Miles to the left and Hernandez to the right, or you could switch them. But in either case, so the problem with this, so even if you go this or something, right? My problem with this is that who's the fastest guy in the back line?
Well, Hernandez in this scenario.
Sorry,
Miles.
Miles by far.
Miles
is super fast. Yeah. And who reads the game the best out of all those guys?
Yeah,
Miles.
Same.
So when you have the guy who's the fastest and who reads the game, you want to put him here, right? So now Purata is going to be one of the other guys. I don't think he's as good at that way. Because what happens with these guys is they get caught, out here in a more 1v1 kind of situation. Sorry. Right. Whereas, right now, Purata has been mostly the free guy. Yeah. He's been terrific as the free guy, but I'm not really sure he's the best matching up.
So, maybe they'll put him in the center and Miles is fine to the right or left. Like I'd put him out to the left.
I think that's a better scenario is to leave him here. Right. And I mean, Miles has no problem with that 1v1.
And I would flip it with Hernandez here.
Yeah.
Put Hernandez on the right. But I think what you're also saying, which is good about this, would Abram looks good in the Purata role if he needs, gets injured or there's cohesion there.
I don't think Abram is as good as Purata, and I don't think he's capable of playing that center role. No, I don't. But the other thing, the bottom line is one of the problems that I have with the five is that you still haven't fixed, the matchup problem. Right. We still have these three guys and we did much better because at least now we have three in the back. We never get caught with only two in the back, or last year, sometimes one in the back. Right. But my problem is they're still not good about matching up. Now, when Robinson is there, he's much better because he's super aggressive. He wins the ball up the field. Right. But there's still this, I don't know who should take whatever. Now, that being said, right. One thing that's happened with our three in the back for the first time all season in the last two games, we've won the ball occasionally up the field, right? That is incredibly important, right? We haven't been doing that all year. It's been my number one problem, right? But the problem I have is with all of the good things that we have, we still don't have this guy marked up out here, right? Why? With three in the back, we should have him marked up, right?
But at least, hopefully, if they see that, they can correct it. If they see that,
so first of all, I don't think that they really understand the strengths and weaknesses of Purata and Miles, right? I suspect that what's going to happen is Purata is going to go here and Miles is going to go here, right? And I think nobody has realized that Purata is really good in the center role. That's his best role.
Yeah.
Right. So I think they're going to get that wrong. I think that they think that Abram is better than Hernandez. I think they might get that wrong, right? You might see that,
Yeah.
right? And that is not nearly as good in the back three. And Abram and Parata, they should be able to, but they don't match up that well. Even when they match up pretty well, sometimes up the field, they're okay matching up. But this is a huge problem still, right? We still with the back three, we don't have anybody going to close down that roll out wide. So anybody who thinks that suddenly we're going to get a lot of shutouts, right? I think we're still going to give up that soft goal. Now, granted, once they're out wide, you have at least three guys in the back.
Right.
So they're at least serving the ball into a crowded box.
Yeah.
Well,
That's what's happened. It's like this,
but overall, like, yeah, there was some Bedoya moments. You say but you don't think we are any more defensively sound.
No, we're much better defensively sound. But anybody who thinks that it's going to be against the better teams, that we are going to continue to do what we've done, I think is kidding themselves, right? We're still going to give it. We're not going to get shutouts.
Isn't Philadelphia one of the better teams?
Yeah, I think we blitzed Philadelphia because they weren't expecting it, right? And I think what's going to happen, the other thing I'm worried about is in the center of the park, that people are going to realize they only got two in the center of the park, and they're going to overload it, right? So we're going to have trouble getting out of the back. Now, one thing that's happened, which is a total accident, has nothing to do with Pineda, but he got lucky. When you have this and only two in the back, your defensive midfielder has to be a guy who you can play to out of the back. Sosa, you can play to out of the back.
Yeah.
Ibarra gives the ball away all the time and doesn't make great decisions out of the back. So, God bless, we got the right player. If you're going to play five in the back, Sosa's way better because he's going to read the game. You don't need all the tackles as much, right? And most importantly, you need to have a guy who can also outlet the ball. I mean, one of the things that, one of our listeners, Jeff Newberry, who was a tremendous coach himself, was telling us to look at, and I agree with him completely. When we were playing with Ibarra and Sejdic mostly, or Ibarra and Josetu, when we were trying to play out of the back, those guys are not moving at all. They're not available at all. And so we have been bypassing them left and right. Now that works if Almada is open, but all these teams have realized that. They've closed down Almada, and suddenly we're not building out of the back anymore. We're going long. We're kicking it. We're not. Yeah. It's not good. And we've given the ball, even when we've tried to. How many times have we given up goals where we just gave it away out of the back?
Too many.
Right?
Yeah. So most of any season.
Yeah. So this is my concern. So if we summarize the tactical board, you would say, look, we have to play five in the back now. We don't have a choice, right? As soon as you play five in the back, there's two problems. One, the main problem, I think, is Almada has to go wide, and I think is not as good for him. He's a great player, so he'll still be good, right? And then the other problem I have was we only get two in the middle. We only have two in the middle. They better be very, very good.
Yeah.
Right. And unless we're going to get overloaded. The third problem, I don't think we match up even that well out of the back in the five, but that's the problem right now anyway. So it's better when we have three guys than we have two guys. So,
but is Sosa our guy now? Do you think that Pineda, with the five in the back, Sosa has to be the guy? Pineda can't sit him anymore.
I think that Pineda might, because I don't think he recognizes it, but he has to be. And he is also, one thing that I will say about going to the five with what we have, Sosa makes a lot of sense in a five because he really can read it. It really maximizes Wiley and Lennon, right? And the guy that they bought makes sense completely. Mayamba, I don't know how you pronounce it, but he makes perfect sense with only two in the middle too. So everything looks like, the front office was like, hey, why don't you play five in the back? Now, it was weird. They made these moves within, a day of playing five in the back and seeing it once. So could it really have been like, oh, we think it's fine and they moved on it? That's amazing if they did. But I'd love to be a fly on the wall and figure out how we changed, from four in the back to five in the back. One of the things, the podcast right before that, I just went absolutely apoplectic because I'm like, are we ever going to change anything in the back? Right? Because we're giving up the most goals in the league, and we did.
Yeah.
So maybe they're listening.
Maybe.
But I love the five in the back for this team. But here, I just wanted to point out what are the tactical issues with it. And anybody who thinks that suddenly the 5 in the back is going to solve all of our problems, I think is not true.
But I think if we were to get that other forward is a DP or somebody at that level and another secondary upgrade in the midfield, that would be exciting.
I don't think we're going to get that. I'll take that back.
Well, who are we signing then?
We're just signing one designated player who is our right forward. That's who it is.
But we have more money than that, I think, to go out and get somebody in the midfield.
Yeah, but I think it has to be this. Oh, say it.
A League 2 French player? I don't know.
Yeah, that's what I'm worried about. I think it's going to be, honestly, I think Miles will go to the center and he shouldn't be in the center. It should be Parata.
Yeah.
I think that it will likely be Abram because he hates Hernandez.
Yeah.
Right, which is also a mistake.
Yep.
So I think it's going to be this.
Yeah.
But,
well, at least Sosa has some credit in the bank and man of the match, right? So you figure Pineda is going to play.
Sosa, when healthy, I mean, some of these people who are like, "Oh my God, Ibarra is so much better than Sosa." I mean, they're right and they're completely wrong. So has Ibarra been the better player than Sosa this year? Absolutely. Right? Because we've been a chaos. We have only 4 in the back, right? And we've asked our center midfielders to do crazy things. The only thing that works in that role is someone who just flies around the field and makes tackles or whatever. And of course, Sosa's been hurt, right? But if you actually play a solid foundation where people are actually defended and you don't ask, which is what they've done, Ibarra to be like literally holding the hand of Miles and particularly Parata. If you actually allow him to go into midfield and to read it, he is absolutely terrific. And when you play 5, which is what they did, and he allows to do that, a number of people are like, oh, what are we going to make a mistake? He will not make a mistake, people. When he's allowed to be a defensive midfielder, he is terrific. He's been absolutely much worse than Ibarra this season because the role has been crazy, not an actual defensive midfielder. Right? He's been holding the hand of Parata. He's been flying out wide occasionally. He's been doing all this crazy stuff, and Ibarra is better at that.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. But not only when you have it marked up, you now have a true defensive midfielder. Sosa's the better player. And if you only have 2 in the midfield because you have 5 in the back, you got to have a guy who can handle the ball. There was a moment in this Montreal game where Guzan made a really terrible ball to Sosa in the middle, right? Yeah. He was under a tremendous amount of pressure. It almost didn't get to him. It was straight up the middle. Hold on. And he made a one-touch ball out of trouble right into a great position, I think, to Lennon. Yeah. If that's Ibarra, he gives it away, and we got real trouble.